Amid the cold season in Milwaukee, both on and off the court, Giannis Antetokounmpo's name is once again in the spotlight of the league. Not for a dominant performance, but for a much bigger issue: the future of the franchise. An article published by ESPN lays bare the delicate moments of the Bucks, analyzes the current scenario, and coldly projects all the possibilities for now and for the offseason.
All right, a happy Monday. Hopefully, everyone's doing great out there, staying warm. Hopefully, you didn't get too much snow. We've got some afternoon games out there. How about this Charlotte Hornets team right now playing good basketball? It's fun to see, especially when you hit on some of these young players here. And Charlotte is putting a whooping on the Philadelphia less Joel Embiid, Paul George group here, but we are not doing a video to talk about the games that are going on right now. We have an article out on ESPN.com. I guess it's the off-season guide for the Milwaukee Bucks, sprinkled in at the end, a Giannis trade guide for either now or for the summer here. The goal when we wrote this article, although Milwaukee fans will probably think else, is not to push this guy out the door and not force him to make a trade or this and that. And listen, I've got no skin in the game what happens with Giannis. The goal was really just to kind of lay out. The article was written before the injury, and we've updated it since. The goal was to kind of show where Milwaukee is right now at the trade deadline, show where they could be in the offseason, and then if in the next 10 days or even this offseason we get to a point and there is closure on the future of Giannis, which I believe is going to happen, lay out not just 5 teams, but all 29 teams as far as what they could potentially offer in a deal. And that is the article here. The most important thing is that he is where Milwaukee is right now in the standings outside of the play-in. Now we take into account the injury that's going to sideline him for, I think, 4 to 6 weeks was what is being rumored or announced. That takes you into mid-March or early March. The belief or the knowing that you have your own pick, it's the least favorable of your own or New Orleans. So the likelihood is that it's going to be your own, because New Orleans will go to Atlanta. And the realization that you do not control your first round pick into 2031. So when you take into all that, I would say that if it was me, that there's a likelihood is that Giannis has played his last game for this season with Milwaukee here. Because if the numbers are the numbers, which are 3-11 when he is not on the court, and this team continues to lose, there's no reason to bring him back in mid-March for the last month of the season to try to get the 10th spot in the playoffs. So I do think that, and I know Doc Rivers has come out and said that hasn't been talked about or into consideration. That is part of this right now with this injury, this calf injury, another calf injury from Milwaukee's perspective. Because if you do that and you go into the offseason, and we're going to talk about the trade landscape, you will have now 3 first-round picks at your disposal. You'll have your own, and then you'll have 2031 and 2033. Right now, you have one tradable first, which is in 2031 or 2032. When we get to the draft, the 7-year rule basically kind of we fast forward, and now we take into account 2033, starting with 2027. So from Milwaukee's perspective right now, I would not do anything outside of the Giannis answer or question that's going to be answered here with your roster at all. I'm not trading your first in 2031 or 32. I'm not trading players. I'm not taking back salary. I'm basically letting this thing play out and seeing where you are when you come into the offseason here. As far as where you are in the offseason, where you are is you have 9 guys on who are free agents, 5 that have player options. You are an over-the-cap team because of the Lillard money. You would have been over the cap even if you had kept Dame. Lillard money that's stretched. You have Turner, Kuzma, Portis, Giannis, you're an over the cap team. You have some of your signing exceptions. You have the non-tax and the biennial, and then as I said, you have your picks at your disposal. So what you are limited now basically kind of opens up this offseason here as far as to be able to add to your roster. Now we take into the Giannis equation here or question. We are about 10 days away from where we are from the deadline. If he becomes available, and we'll see how it plays out, it is extremely difficult for teams to go all in with 30 games left in the season. And I know we've seen it with Luka last year, and that was a little bit different. That wasn't going all in. You basically traded Anthony Davis and Max Christie in a future first. But when I mean all in, the mother load of draft picks and players, whether it be a team like, for example, Golden State, and you're trading 5 players and 4 first. Deals like this are hard to kind of put together in the next 7 or 8 days. I think if you're in Milwaukee's position, I think you are listening to what teams are or could offer you. He's hurt. He's not going to be back for a extended period of time. And basically, you're taking those and you are revisiting those in the offseason here. Because I do believe it will get a little bit better here in the offseason when you look at where teams are in the standings, where teams, when they know where you're picking in the lottery, the flexibility to be able to take back more salary opens up a little more. The negative is that those expiring contracts are no longer in play. So if you had an expiring contract, that no longer is going to go your way. But I do think eventually there's going to be closure with the future of Giannis in Milwaukee here, because I do think it's run its course. I think for the health of both sides, you basically, and we've seen what the product is on the court right now, and we saw what it was Denver the other night, Minnesota, San Antonio. It is a below average product. It is at best a play-in 9th, 10th team. And how do you kind of kick, instead of kicking the can down the road, how do you basically open up the market? Now, what does the market look like here? When you look at the teams that monopolize draft picks, whether it be Brooklyn or Oklahoma City or Utah, I do not see those as Giannis, San Antonio. I do not see those as Giannis destinations here. Now, we can write about why all 29 teams should be in play or what they have to offer. And as great as Giannis is, and we did this with Luka, when you look at what the market space could be, it starts to shrink. Okay. So if it's Minnesota, who doesn't have a first round pick, and it's New York, who don't have a first round pick, and it has Miami, who has 2 first round picks, the picks are not going to be what you might have thought, where, hey, Desmond Bane got 4 first round picks, or Mikal Bridges got 5 first round picks. The picks, unless it's going to be a wild card team, maybe like Golden State, that can come in and offer 4 first round picks and can send them Jimmy Butler's contract and some other young players. The picks are just not there for some of these teams. Now, when we get to the summer, your picks basically begin to multiply. The Lakers now have an additional 2 first round picks. They'll have 26, 31, and 33, I believe, here. So that's the process as far as when we go through this article here. We have the teams that have the most to offer, and then it's the group of teams that, yeah, we have picks, whether it be Charlotte and Utah or the Wizards. Are they going to make a trade for a guy who potentially could be a free agent in 2027 on an expiring contract and give up all this? I don't see that here. And that is where you kind of get through a process of elimination here as far as what the teams would be. Whether it be Portland, who has the Milwaukee's first, whether it be Atlanta, who has picks. Mark Spears on NBA Today went on and said about that Pelicans pick, I don't see that Pelicans pick being in play unless that thing falls to like 4 or 5. I do not see Atlanta trading the number 1 pick in the draft for Giannis here. So those are all the different decisions here and the questions the Bucks front office has to ask. You are the 5th oldest team in the NBA. The only player that you have on your roster that you've drafted in the first round is Giannis. The only two players that you've drafted at all are Giannis and Andre Jackson Jr. That is it. Get younger, get controllable contracts, get financial flexibility, something that you have a little bit right now, but not much. Remember that Lillard number is sitting on your books for the next after this year for the next 4 years. As I said, the goal for you in Milwaukee, and I'm not saying the goal is that you have to trade him by the deadline. I'm saying the goal for Milwaukee for the rest of the season is to get the highest pick possible when you get to the lottery, whether you're selling Giannis on, we have the fourth pick in the draft or the fifth pick in the draft, or now we have something tangible as a foundational piece if we ever did move this player. As I said, who's got 1 year left on his contract after this year. He's eligible October 1st for 4 for $275 as far.
Everything indicates that the cycle has reached its limit. Not due to a lack of loyalty, talent, or accomplishments, Giannis has given everything to Milwaukee, but because the structure around him can no longer support championship ambitions. For the Bucks, the most rational path is to accept the painful short term, seek a high pick, regain control of their own future, and prepare for a definitive decision. If the question today is whether Giannis will wear the Milwaukee uniform next season, the most honest answer is probably not. The NBA is moving towards a moment of closure, and for both sides, moving on may be the healthiest step.